Joining us now are two of the three candidates who would like to represent Richland County in the Ohio House of Representatives. Seated with me now are incumbent Republican State Representative Marilyn John and write-in candidate Timothy Grady, who's an independent candidate. I was informed late this afternoon that Democratic challenger Emily Adams had fallen ill and would not be able to join us. So unfortunately, she won't be here, but we will mush along. Welcome to both of you, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks, Carl.
Similar to as we've done earlier, I'd like to start by offering both of you a chance to introduce yourself and take a couple of minutes and tell folks in Richland County what you're about. And Tim, we'll start with you.
All right, thanks. Hi, I'm Tim Grady, and I'm going to reiterate that a couple of times because I am a write-in candidate, so you have to remember my name if you want to vote for me. You don't have to remember all of it. Tim will do. Probably TI will also get you most of the way there. But I am independent, unaffiliated. My background, I have degrees in computer science, economics. I'm currently a graduate student at The Ohio State University in a Master's of Public Administration.
Sorry
I
about that.
do enjoy music. I'm a big music fan.
Big music fan. We're music fans.
There we go.
I have previously worked as an anti-money laundering analyst, which was slightly a career slightly inspired by my previous involvement in politics. I want to say that I'm, again, independent, unaffiliated in this race, but I am also a member of the Forward Party, which is a new political party growing across Ohio and the United States, founded by former Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang, former Republican governor of New Jersey Christine Todd Whitman, and many others from across the political spectrum. So I am inspired to run because of that party. I am in no way endorsed or affiliated by that party. I have to make that clear. But I do want to bring new political ideas and new choices to our elections. I also want to say I am not running against Marilyn John. I'm not running against Emily Adams. I'm just running to promote ideas and bring, a different voice to politics. Thanks.
Marilyn, introduce yourself to Richland County.
Well, thanks for having us tonight. Thank you to the Source for hosting the candidate event. I am Marilyn John. I am your state representative here in Richland County. I grew up here in the northern part of the county, just north of Shelby. Actually graduated from Plymouth High School and went on to North Central State College here locally as well. Graduated from Ashland University with a degree in marketing and business management. I went to work at the Shelby Insurance Company, if anybody remembers the insurance company. They were located where the Kehoe Center is now, and that was my first job out of college. I was a commercial lines underwriter there in the insurance industry. During that time, I met a Shelby boy, and this coming Monday, we will celebrate 29 years together, so happy anniversary to him. We have two children, and I actually stayed home with our children when they were little and until they started elementary school. And then after that, I became the executive director of the Shelby Senior Center. We had a new building that we were opening up in Shelby, and that process spurred me to get involved in politics. I've always been interested in politics, and so I ran for mayor of the city of Shelby, and I was mayor from 2010 to until I took office as a Richland County Commissioner. I took office in January of 2015 as Richland County Commissioner, worked closely with Daryl and Tony for 6 years, and then I ran for the State House, and I have been proud to represent you in the Ohio House of Representatives for the last 4 years.
Thank you. Let's go to a question for both of you. Could directly impact how boundaries are drawn for the state's legislative and congressional districts. talking, of course, about State Issue 1 that's on the ballot this cycle. I'd like each of you to offer your views on Issue 1 and explain why you do or don't support it, why you think it's a good idea or why it's a bad idea. Marilyn, you go first this time.
Sure. So issue 1 will do away with the current constitutional amendments that were passed here in the state of Ohio, that were passed overwhelmingly by the voters in the state of Ohio. The purpose of those amendments was to end gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is when maps are drawn to benefit a specific political party. And so the constitutional amendments that, again, were overwhelmingly passed by the voters of the state of Ohio, that was the purpose of those amendments. And I don't think that we should be doing away with those amendments. They were largely supported. It put in place a 7-member commission made up of elected officials that are accountable to the voters. And it is a bipartisan commission made up of statewide elected officials as well as members of the majority and minority parties in the House and Senate. This new amendment that's on the ballot will do away with all of that and will require gerrymandering in order to meet the goal of the amendment, which is to, one of the things that happened with the first couple of amendments is it took into consideration proportionality, which is the percentage of vote when you look at statewide races across the state. It also took into account compactness, which means keeping like communities together. Richland County, as an example, is one district as a state house district. And the reason that it is one district is because of the compactness requirement in the current amendments. This new amendment does away with all of that. It puts in place a 15-member person, first 15-member board commission that will make all of these decisions, and none of those individuals will be elected, nor can you as voters or citizens hold them accountable. They cannot be questioned. You cannot call them, email them. The only time that they can be addressed is if they are in a meeting in Columbus to talk about the redistricting. And that's not how our government is. We are a representative form of government. I am there because you all elected me to represent you in Columbus. And this commission would not be elected. They have an open checkbook. As a legislator, whatever they say, whatever they set their salaries at, whatever they set their budget to be, we as legislators can't question it. We just have to approve it. And that's not who we are in this country. This is about accountability and representation. Therefore, I would urge everyone to vote no on this constitutional amendment.
Thank you. Tim, thoughts on State Issue 1?
Well, I have to say, how much accountability is there in politicians who are drawing their own districts to ensure that they are always reelected? The argument that, these 15 citizens who have been selected for this commission aren't accountable, no more so than the unaccountable politicians who will wield current redistricting to their benefit. So the amendment being put forward isn't, it's to replace the previous 2 amendments because the previous 2 amendments failed to live up to what everyone thought they were voting for. So this is still in the same intent, same purpose as the previous amendments. It is just basically to close remaining loopholes that have been used to abuse our redistricting system. How it is now, you have a political commission of politicians who, yes, are elected, but they are drawing districts for 6 to 10 years, depending on how they are voted on. So their accountability is very limited when they're drawing districts for 10 years, and all of those people are going to be term limited by then. So, and there is still, government elected oversight in that. With the amendment as proposed under issue 1, elected officials appoint the board that selects the bipartisan judges that become the screening committee for the citizens. Yeah, it's a few extra steps, but there is still democratic accountability, and it's built to, resolve the issue of the fact that we do have gerrymandered districts still, despite the last 2 amendments. And, that's clear from the fact that, Republicans got, 56% of the vote, but in our state legislature, they have, 60, 70, 80% of the seats. So we do have gerrymandered districts. I don't think this is a perfect solution, but, gerrymandering for me, the real way to address it is through vigorous political participation. It really only works if, you only have 2 political parties and everyone votes pretty much the same way year after year. So the gerrymandering, politicians have the data to say, hey, this person's going to vote this way, so we're going to put them in this district. If you throw that into chaos with a new political party and some new ideas, get people to change their votes, it really doesn't matter. So I'm yes on issue 1. I think it makes slight improvements. It, creates a little more accountability, puts our candidates maybe actually having to run in competitive races once in a while. But ultimately, what we need to do to solve this problem is get involved, get engaged, and run real candidates and build real political opposition in Ohio and across the country.
Thank you. Now, Tim, this question for you. You are a write-in candidate, and I think we quoted you in a story, I think yesterday or today, and you kind of openly said, you don't think you're going to win. You've said that you're running to offer ideas. So based upon that, give me the biggest 2 ideas that you would like to see enacted in the state legislature.
Wow. Biggest 2 ideas. So I'm not really, so I am a big ideas person, but I also believe that real progress comes from lots of small ideas implemented at many different levels. So honestly, when I say I'm running to bring ideas, part of that is not just to the state legislature, but I believe political campaigns are an opportunity to talk to people, organize ourselves, share ideas, and get people on the same page. So it's not just about, what the state legislature does. It's, I want to galvanize people in Richland County to say, hey, things aren't working at the local, county, state, national level. And, some of that is the government failing to step up, but some of it is us failing to step up. So some of those ideas are more, hey, we are actually more powerful than we think we are. We actually have way more control over our lives, our city, the economy than we think we do. It's not some far-off person making the decisions. It's all of us, and the fact that, it's so divided, that we're so apathetic, that allows us to kind of ignore our own responsibility and our own power. So when I say I'm running on ideas, it is more ideas, culturally to spread throughout everything. But, if I'm given the opportunity to talk about some big ideas for the state legislature, I really am into expanding, I guess, simplest terms, expanding the Ohio Third Frontier program. I am always been supportive of a really big technological investment fund in Ohio. The more money, the better. I'm going to say several billion, because when Ohio, Richland County, Mansfield, I have always thought we have just incredible potential to be an economic juggernaut, a technological juggernaut. We have so much diversity of industry and research and universities to support that, and really great people whose potential is wasted. So we need to create a big innovation fund that will invest in people, ideas, technology, startups, new businesses, and really support that with an understanding of how it all connects to our larger local, state, and global economy. Yeah, first idea, big innovation fund. Second idea, because I think I'm taking a little time, so I'll be a little quick. Marilyn John has said that energy is a big focus. I agree, energy should be a big focus. It is one of the main limiting factors to economic growth. The more cheaper, cleaner, more accessible energy you have, the more you can do. So I would like to, let's say, push us along to investing in, for these purposes of a single idea, small modular nuclear reactors. Let's invest in the nuclear technology industry. I do think that solar, Toledo, Ohio, we have some of the largest solar manufacturing in North America, some of the largest outside of China. We should really be investing in that more. But still, ultimately, nuclear is kind of our future.
Thank you. Marilyn, you're seeking re-election. What do you think are the best things you've done for Richland County voters the last 4 years, and what are the biggest challenges that still face the county and you in office that you haven't been able to solve yet?
So the main role of a state representative is really to advocate for our communities. And there's a couple different ways that we can do that in Columbus. If there is needed legislation, as an example, we can draft legislation and help it through the process. An example of a piece of legislation that was brought to me by a constituent here that I think would be impactful and I continue to work on is within the foster care system. My sister and her husband were foster parents, and so I have had a lot of experience through them in that system. And foster children, if they age out of the system and the foster parents that they live with are not willing to put them on their auto insurance, then they can't get a driver's license. And when you think of an 18-year-old graduating from high school, going out into the world as an adult on their own without a driver's license, that's a huge impact and negatively on them. And so that was brought to me by a local constituent as something that she felt would be really helpful. And so I've met with lobbyists and other elected officials to talk about that, to see what we could do and where that might fit. So that is one example of advocacy when it comes to passing legislation. There's also advocacy when it comes to maybe a community project and not being able to, needing funds for a community project. So if anybody is familiar with Plymouth, there is a railroad bridge up there that closed a little over a year ago, and it has closed the main road going through the village. And it's been a problem for the schools, it's been a problem for safety, the safety personnel to get from one side of the track to the other side of the track if there's an emergency. And so I received a phone call from Mayor Fryman and said, look, we cannot afford to replace this bridge. It's a couple $1 million. We just don't know what to do. We don't have the funds. Can you be of help? And I was able to bring in individuals. Senator Romachuk attended a meeting. The other interesting part of this is Broadway in Plymouth sits right on the county line. And so we had 2 different representatives, 2 different senators, 2 different sets of county commissioners, 2 different county engineers to all bring together. And so I was able to help coordinate that, getting a whole lot of elected officials who could potentially bring resources to that problem that they were having, and look and see what can we do to help fix it. I was able to bring the state of Ohio up, and they were able to find funds through a grant program with the Ohio Department of Transportation, and now the Village of Plymouth is working on replacing that bridge, and it's all our tax dollars. My advocacy is just bringing those tax dollars back to Richland County. So that's another idea as far as a community project that I've been able to work on over the last couple of years. And then the other way to advocate is sometimes there's just things that happen in a resident's life. Maybe they're trying to connect with somebody at the state, and they just are having problems making that right connection. I've been able to help many people get those connections that they need. And I'll give an example. There's a young woman who had a health concern a few years ago, and as a result of the health concern, she lost the tips of her fingers. Well, and this was when she was in high school. And so she did not have a fingerprint. Well, she wanted to she's going to school to become a teacher. And if you're going to get your teacher's license in the state of Ohio, you have to pass a BCI test, which requires a fingerprint test. Well, she doesn't have fingerprints. And she was struggling to find people. I mean, that's a kind of a unique situation. And so I was able to connect her with the state attorney general's office, who runs the BCI, and they actually met. Her and her parents came to Mansfield and met with General Yost, and she was able to explain to him, this is what I need. And he was able to help her. He better understood exactly what needed to be done, and he was able to help her get her teaching license so that she could just be a substitute teacher. And that's just one of many stories of things that I've been able to help with over the last 4 years that I'm really, really thankful that I was in a position to be able to help them. Some of the areas that I think we need to continue working on, energy, as Tim mentioned, is an area that is very concerning. We consume more energy than we produce. And so that's on a lot of our minds in Columbus. What can we do to address that situation? Even in the realms of agriculture. I was attending a Farm Bureau dinner recently, and they talked about how their use of energy is so much higher now, even in the area of agriculture, than it was 50 years ago. We don't think of agriculture maybe as a big energy user, but they are becoming more and more of a big energy user, and we need to be addressing those things. So, but another area is workforce. It has been an issue for a long time. It continues to be a concern. And so what can we do to address workforce issues? In my opinion, we need to start talking about workforce with our young people younger and younger. And the schools are beginning to, or have been addressing that over the last few years, even as early as elementary school, talking to our students about their dreams and what they might have in store. I started a program when I was the mayor of Shelby called Leader Richland, which brings our junior high students to our local campus, and they talk about workforce. They get to see what it's like to butter a brick if they want to be a bricklayer. They get to meet with engineers and owners of companies. They get to talk with, we've even had yoga instructors in, because we need individuals that have talents of all different types to be able to come in and work in Richland County. And we also need to be able to attract those young people to stay here. So what can we do as far as workforce, starting younger and younger, but then also helping our businesses to have a workforce that is trained to deal with incoming technologies. And so the state of Ohio has a tech credit program that has been very successful over the last 4 years. And what can we do to, as a state legislator, how can I impact that? Make sure that we have enough money in the budget to help the businesses with their training needs. So those are some of the things that I've worked on and some of the things I want to continue working on.
Thank you. This question will be for both of you. I read a story in the Ohio Capital Journal back in August, and it talked about 41 million members of Gen Z are going to be able to vote in this election across the country. And one of the topics of interest, I think it was fourth on the list, was gun violence. It's an important topic, especially here in the city of Mansfield. We had a record number of gun homicides in 2023. As our county's representative in Columbus, what can state lawmakers better do to address this issue? And Tim, we'll start with you.
So, once again, let's say, I ran as a libertarian in 2018. I'm not a libertarian, but I do understand and the nature of, our problems as emergent from our culture and our society and people. So I don't start with trying to resolve problems from the angle of, what legislation can we pass? It's more like, what can we do to engage our community and, bring people together and show, let's say, leadership. So if, you really want to address the problems of gun violence and violence in general in Mansfield and really across the country, it's going to require engagement at the local level. It's going to require us to, step up and talk to each other more and kind of rebuild those bonds of community that in different times would keep us together and allow us to know when something is wrong in our neighborhoods and try and get ahead of those problems before they turn to something deadly. If you wanted a state, piece of legislation that could do it, establishing groups that can actually, it requires continuous input of time and energy, from volunteers, you're not always going to be able to sustain that long term. So basically create funding to have neighborhood peacemakers essentially. But really we have to address this more holistically. We have to create some leadership from our representatives to say, hey, our country is being divided. How can we bring it together? So for me personally, as a representative, I would actually spend a lot of time in the district working with people, engaging people, and saying, hey, let's build a organization, let's build a culture that can, combat violence from the ground up, because that's where it's got to start. I do believe strongly in political organizing as a tool for changing the culture. So for me, the next couple of years are going to be actively trying to do that by building the Forward Party in Ohio and locally to, try and bring people together, have those conversations, and then keep us engaged, have civic engagement constantly that says, hey, let's solve our own problems. Let's, be our neighbor's keeper. Let us do what needs to be done to save lives and protect the people around us and try and build a stable, strong, and prosperous community. And absolutely that starts at the local level. Leadership can be helpful.
Right. Marilyn, same question for you. What are we going to do about gun violence?
So I am absolutely a supporter of the Second Amendment, and criminals are going to access guns. Criminals break the law. I agree with Tim. Solving the issue of violence in our youth starts at the local levels. It starts about having conversations. It starts about building strong families. It starts with having fathers in the home and mothers in the home. It starts with education. It's all of those things that we do as a community. And we can look in Mansfield and Richland County and say, what do we need to be doing better? Because we have experienced gun violence amongst our youth here. And I do think it is about educating them on what the opportunities are ahead of them. It is educating them on conflict resolution. Carl, you talked about the ability to go online and complain. We can all do that. Maybe what we should be doing and what we should be encouraging our youth to do, and starting off by setting the example, is the first thing. Before you hit send, before you hit post, think about what you're putting in writing. Think about who you're going to impact by what you're saying. Think about the person that you are getting ready to attack, if that's what you're going to do. And who else is going to be reading that? And the example that is setting for our young people and how we deal with conflict. I have friends that are on both sides of the aisle. I, in Columbus, have been able to sit down and talk with my Democratic colleagues and say, can you help me understand this? Because I really don't get it. And have good conversations, shake each other's hand, or hug each other at the end, and still be friends and colleagues at the end. We need to be setting the example of what that looks like as leaders in our community, and helping our young people to understand what conflict resolution is about and what it looks like. And I agree with Tim. I don't think there's a piece of legislation that's going to force that. There's just not. That's how we combat our gun violence in Mansfield and Richland County in the state of Ohio.
All right, we are running a little bit behind, so we're going to get to the point of closing arguments again. Both of you take just a minute and remind folks why you deserve their vote on November 5th, and Marilyn, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm going to follow suit, and I'm going to ask for your vote, because that's what we need to do. We need to be asking the voters and the residents for your support and your vote. I think I have established a reputation of getting things done in Richland County, and I enjoy advocating. I love advocating for you in the city of Columbus and representing you there. It's about being able to communicate with people, it's really all about relationships. And I've spent 15 years developing those relationships in Richland County, and being able to know and understand what the needs of the community here are so that I can better advocate for you in Richland County. I feel very confident in being able to continue to do that for you in the city of Columbus, and I would just ask for your support. Thank you.
Tim, you get the last word.
So it's spelled T-I-M. I am a write-in candidate. You do have to remember T-I-M, G-R-A-D-Y. Pretty simple, but you can always look it up. And I think you should vote for me because, honestly, you have nothing to lose there. And it's a good opportunity to just express yourself. But I'm not asking for your votes. I'm very realistic about my chances. This is a district that, votes about 70% Republican, which doesn't matter to me. I'm an independent, but I am a write-in, and you gotta remember to spell my name. That's difficult. So I'm not asking for your votes. What this is this is step one of trying to bring real change to our community, to Richland County, and to Ohio. And that is getting out there and saying, hey, we're building something new. We're trying to build the Forward Party in Ohio. I invite everyone to join. We meet regularly. Yes, this is just me secretly getting in here to advertise for the Forward Party. But I want people to see, it is not hard to run for office. It's hard to win, but it's not hard to run, to go out, meet people, share your ideas, listen to others, and gain a better understanding and respect for our community and the problems we all face and what we can do about it. And I believe there is so much we can do about it in and out of office. We can organize locally. I think, in Mansfield and in Richland County, we haven't had, alternative perspectives on economic development really shared. It's very one-sided, invest lots in downtown and stuff. And then maybe there are other ideas out there, and I'd like to see those. So I'm trying to, bring people into a new party, and we're gonna run for office every year from here on out. I really want everyone to know that this should be the last year that anyone has an easy time getting elected. Every election should be competitive. Every election should require candidates to earn every single vote. We're trying to build that here, and I invite you to join me. Reach out. My name is Tim Grady, and yes, it's spelled T-I-M. Thank you, and thanks for having me.
And with that, we'll wrap up this particular conversation. I want to thank Marilyn John and Tim Grady for joining us tonight and spending time giving us their thoughts on what they would do if elected.